Welcome to Night Whisper. Night Whisper brings you the darkest tales from the shadows. Join our community. Subscribe, leave a like, and prepare yourself for stories that will haunt your dreams. I should have known that something was off when they offered me $93 an hour to watch computer screens in the middle of nowhere. My name is Nathan Reeves, and for half a year I was a Level 3 security surveillance operator at Vanguard Data Solutions, Facility 7D. Remote, in fact, the advertisement for the job read. They weren't serious. Facility 7D sat 470 miles outside Duluth, Minnesota, through nothing but pine trees and icy bodies of water. The closest town was named Cedar Falls, 812 souls, but that too was a 20-minute ride through a dirt chemin that vanished completely for 5 months of the year. The facility itself looked like a concrete bunker from the outside, windowless and gray, with only a small security entrance and what appeared to be massive cooling vents on the roof. Inside, it was larger than it seemed, extending 3 floors underground. The entire complex was dedicated to one thing: data storage and network monitoring for government contracts. At least, that's what they told me. My job was simple: sit in the monitoring station on Level 2 from 11 at night until 7 in the morning, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and watch 32 camera feeds. The cameras monitored every corridor, every server room, every entrance and exit, every dark corner of the facility. If anything moved, I was supposed to log it. If anything looked wrong, I was supposed to report it immediately to my supervisor, a man named Edward Chen, whom I never actually met in person. The training took 3 days. A woman named Victoria walked me through the systems, showed me how to cycle through camera feeds, how to use the digital logs, how to call for backup if needed. She was professional but distant, never making eye contact for more than a second or two. On the 3rd day, she handed me a physical document titled Surveillance Protocol and Safety Guidelines. It was 23 pages long. "Read this tonight before your first shift," she said, sliding the document across the break room table. "Memorize the important parts. Your life might depend on it." I laughed. She didn't. "I'm serious, Nathan. This isn't a normal facility. You'll understand once you start seeing things. Just follow the protocol exactly. Don't deviate. Don't try to be clever. And whatever you do, never, ever go to Level 3 alone." She left before I could ask why. That night, I sat in my rental apartment in Cedar Falls and read the protocol document cover to cover. Most of it was standard security industry language about incident reporting, emergency procedures, and equipment maintenance. But scattered throughout were peculiar additions, specific instructions that made no sense. Camera rotation protocol was strict. I was to cycle through all 32 feeds at least once every 17 minutes. Not 15, not 20, 17. If I allowed any single camera to display for longer than 4 minutes without switching, I was to immediately log it as a visibility violation and reset my monitor station. There were blind spots in the facility. The protocol listed them specifically: the northwest corner of the Level 2 server room, the maintenance closet adjacent to the east stairwell, and the entire southern section of Level 3. These areas had no cameras due to electromagnetic interference. I was instructed to never attempt to install additional cameras in these locations or to enter them during my shift. If I saw any person on the cameras who was not wearing a Vanguard ID badge, I was to immediately lock down the facility and contact law enforcement. But the next paragraph said, if I saw a person wearing a badge that I didn't recognize from the employee database, I was to log it, but take no action. Just watch and document. The most unsettling instruction came on page 18. If you observe yourself on any camera feed, immediately power down Monitor Station 2, exit the monitoring room, and contact your shift supervisor. Do not investigate. Do not attempt to determine which camera captured your image. Do not look at Monitor Station 2 again until receiving clearance. I reread that paragraph 4 times. How could I see myself on a camera? I'd be in the monitoring room, watching the feeds, unless there was a camera in the monitoring room itself, aimed at me. I checked the employee database that night. 43 people were listed as working at Facility 7D, though apparently most of them were on day shifts or only came in a few times a week for maintenance. The overnight security staff consisted of just 2 people, me on Sunday through Thursday, and someone named Marcus Vale on Friday and Saturday. I never met Marcus, but Victoria mentioned he'd been working the weekend shift for almost 2 years. My first shift started that Sunday at 11 p.m. The monitoring room was smaller than I expected, maybe 12 feet by 14 feet, with 3 walls covered in monitors, and the 4th wall featuring a heavy steel door with a magnetic lock. There were 2 monitoring stations, each with 8 screens arranged in a 2x4 grid. Station 1 faced the north wall, Station 2 faced the south wall. A simple office chair sat at each station, and a small mini-fridge hummed in the corner next to a microwave and coffee maker. I settled into the chair at Station 1 and logged into the system. All 32 cameras came online, filling the 16 screens with grainy black and white footage of empty hallways, silent server rooms, and dark stairwells. The timestamp in the corner of each feed read 23:04. Everything was quiet. Everything was still. I pulled up the rotation schedule Victoria had prepared for me. Camera 1 through 16 on Station 1, cameras 17 through 32 on Station 2, but I was supposed to work from Station 1 only. Station 2 was for backup monitoring purposes, whatever that meant. For the first hour, nothing happened. I cycled through the feeds every 17 minutes, just as instructed. Server Room A on Level 1 showed rows of black towers with blinking green lights. Hallway B3 on Level 2 was empty, fluorescent lights humming in silence. Stairwell East was a concrete shaft descending into darkness, the cameras only covering the first 2 levels. At 12:47 a.m., I saw my first irregularity. Camera 9 monitored the corridor outside the monitoring room where I sat. It showed the hallway from an elevated angle, about 30 feet down from my door. As I cycled to that feed, I noticed something in the far left of the frame. A shadow. Not moving, just there. A dark silhouette that seemed slightly denser than the surrounding darkness, standing perfectly still near the wall. I stared at it for maybe 20 seconds. The shadow didn't move. It didn't have a clear shape, more like a dark smudge in the corner of the frame. I told myself it was just a trick of the lighting, maybe a shadow cast by the overhead fixtures. I moved to camera 10. When I cycled back to camera 9 17 minutes later, the shadow was gone. I made a note in the digital log. Camera 9, 12:47 a.m., possible lighting artifact in northwest quadrant, resolved upon second viewing. The hours passed slowly. At 2:15 a.m., I made coffee. At 3:30 a.m., I ate the sandwich I'd brought from home. At 4:05 a.m., I saw it again. This time on camera 14, which monitored server room C on level 2. The room was large, maybe 60 feet by 40 feet, filled with server towers arranged in neat rows. The camera was positioned in the southeast corner, giving a good view of most of the room. Between the 3rd and 4th rows, approximately 30 feet from the camera, stood a figure. It was humanoid in shape, but wrong somehow. Too tall, maybe 7 feet. Too thin, its proportions stretched like a reflection in a funhouse mirror. It stood completely motionless, facing away from the camera, hands at its sides. I leaned forward, my heart suddenly pounding. The figure wore dark clothing, or maybe its skin was just dark. It was impossible to tell in the grainy black and white feed. What was clear was that it shouldn't be there. Server room C was locked. The badge access log showed no entries since the day shift supervisor left at 7 p.m. I checked the protocol document. If I saw any person without a proper badge, lock down the facility and call law enforcement. But what if it wasn't a person? I cycled to camera 15, then camera 16, then back to camera 14. The figure was gone. My hands were shaking as I typed into the log. Camera 14, 4:05 a.m., unidentified individual in server room C. Subject did not appear in second viewing. Possible equipment malfunction. Investigating. I knew I should call my supervisor, but I'd never actually spoken to Edward Chen. Our only communication had been through email. What would I even say? Hi, I maybe saw something on a camera, but then it disappeared? I decided to wait. If it happened again, I'd call. It happened again 18 minutes later. Camera 23 covered the level 3 corridor near the southern blind spot. I wasn't supposed to go to level 3. The protocol had been very clear about that. But the camera was there, so I was supposed to monitor it. At 4:23 a.m., the feed from camera 23 flickered. Just a brief flutter, a single frame of static. When the image returned, there was someone in the corridor. Not the tall figure from before. This was different. A person in what looked like a hazmat suit, or maybe a cleanroom suit, standing about 15 feet from the camera, facing directly toward it. They weren't moving, just standing there, head tilted slightly to one side, as if listening. The suit was pale, almost white in the black and white feed, and it covered the person completely. I couldn't see a face through the hood, just a dark oval where the head should be. I watched for a full minute. The figure didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't shift weight or adjust position. It just stood there, watching the camera, watching me, watching it. Then it raised one hand, slowly, deliberately, and pointed directly at the camera. The feed cut to static. I jerked back from the screen, my chair rolling backward and hitting the wall. My breath came fast and shallow. The static on camera 23 lasted maybe 5 seconds. Then the feed returned. The corridor was empty. No figure, no suit, nothing. But now camera 24 was showing static. Camera 25. Camera 26. Like something was moving through the feeds, disrupting them one by one, getting closer to my location. I grabbed the phone on the desk and dialed the supervisor number. It rang, and rang, and rang. No answer, no voicemail, just endless ringing. Camera 27 came back online. Empty hallway. Camera 28. Empty stairwell. Camera 29, the one that covered the level 2 corridor outside the west entrance. The tall figure was there, standing in the middle of the corridor, facing the camera. Its proportions were even more wrong in this angle. Arms too long, head too small, body twisted at an angle that shouldn't be possible. It took a step forward, then another, moving toward the camera with a strange gliding motion, like it was on wheels instead of legs. I watched in horror as it approached the camera, growing larger in the frame, filling more and more of the screen until all I could see was darkness and a suggestion of movement. The feed didn't cut to static. The figure just kept coming until it was so close that the image dissolved into abstract shapes. Then it stopped. Camera 30 showed the level 2 corridor outside the monitoring room. My corridor. The figure wasn't there. Yet. I looked at the door. The magnetic lock indicator glowed green, secure. Nothing could get in without the proper badge access. Nothing human, anyway. The phone was still ringing. I hung up and tried again. Same result. No answer. I checked the time, 4:36 a.m. Still 2.5 hours until the end of my shift. 2.5 hours alone with whatever was in this facility. Camera 9, the one showing the hallway outside my door, flickered. When it came back, the tall figure was there, standing directly in front of my door. It reached out with one impossibly long arm and touched the door handle. The magnetic lock indicator turned red. The door lock disengaged with a soft click. I shot out of my chair and backed against the far wall, eyes locked on the door. It didn't open. The figure on camera 9 just stood there, hand on the handle, motionless. Then it turned its head toward the camera, toward me. And even though I couldn't see its face clearly, I knew it was looking at me, seeing me. The monitoring room had no windows, no other exits. The only way out was through that door. I forced myself to breathe, to think. The protocol. What did the protocol say about this? I grabbed the document from the desk, hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I flipped through the pages, looking for anything that matched the situation. Page 12 had a section titled Anomalous Observations. If you observe individuals or entities that do not match known personnel profiles and display non-standard behavior patterns, initiate Containment Protocol Delta 7. Lock all doors, disable external communications, and wait for dawn. Do not attempt to leave the monitoring room. Do not attempt to make contact with observed entities. Document everything. Wait for sunrise. Wait for sunrise. It was 4:38 a.m. Sunrise in January in Minnesota wouldn't be until after 8 a.m., more than 3 hours from now. I looked at camera 9 again. The figure was gone. The door lock indicator was still red, still disengaged, but nothing had come in. I sat back down at the monitoring station, pulled up a blank document on the computer, and started typing everything I'd seen. Every detail. Every timestamp. The protocol said to document everything, so that's what I did. As I typed, I kept one eye on the camera feeds. They were mostly normal now, showing empty rooms and corridors. But every few minutes, one of them would flicker. Just a brief moment of static, and sometimes, when the image returned, there would be something new. Camera 12, a dark stain on the floor that wasn't there before. Camera 18, a door standing open that I knew had been closed. Camera 21, something small and dark crawling on the ceiling, moving too fast for me to identify before it disappeared behind a server tower. At 5:14 a.m., my monitoring station went completely dark. All 16 screens showed pure black. No static, no signal message, just black. I could hear my own heartbeat, the hum of the computers, the distant ventilation system, and underneath it all, something else. A low sound, almost below the range of hearing. A vibration that I felt more than heard, coming from somewhere beneath my feet. The lights in the monitoring room flickered. I held my breath, waiting for them to go out completely, waiting to be plunged into darkness with whatever was in this facility. But the lights stabilized, the screens remained black. Then, one by one, they came back online. But they weren't showing the camera feeds anymore. They were showing recordings, old footage. I could tell because the timestamps were wrong, showing dates from months ago, from years ago. Camera 5 showed a different person sitting in this monitoring room, working the overnight shift. A man I didn't recognize, wearing a Vanguard uniform, typing on a computer. As I watched, he suddenly stopped typing and looked up at the camera. His eyes went wide. He stood up quickly, backing away from the monitors, looking at something off screen. His mouth moved, forming words I couldn't hear. Then, he ran to the door, yanked it open, and disappeared. The footage continued for a moment, showing the empty monitoring room. Then, the screen went black again. Camera 7 showed level 3, the southern section where there weren't supposed to be any cameras. The footage quality was poor, heavily degraded, but I could make out a large room with concrete walls and something in the center. A structure, or maybe a machine. It was hard to tell. Dark shapes moved around it, 4 or 5 figures in those pale suits, working on something. One of them turned toward the camera. For just a moment, I saw what was behind the hood. Not a human face. Something else. Something with too many eyes. The screen cut to black. The rest of the screen cycled through more old footage, showing glimpses of the facility from months or years past. People I didn't know, working late shifts. Some of them looked scared. Some looked confused. Some just looked exhausted, going through the motions of their jobs. And in the background of several feeds, always just at the edge of the frame, I saw them. The tall figures, the suited ones, watching, waiting. At 6:03 a.m., all the screens returned to live feeds. Everything looked normal. Empty corridors, quiet server rooms, blinking lights in the darkness, as if nothing had happened. I checked the camera rotation schedule. I'd broken protocol. I'd been watching the same corrupted feeds for almost 45 minutes without cycling through properly. I should log it as a visibility violation. Instead, I just sat there, staring at the monitors, waiting for sunrise. The phone rang. I nearly jumped out of my chair. I picked it up with a shaking hand. Monitoring station, this is Nathan. Nathan Reeves? The voice was male, calm, professional. This is Edward Chen, your shift supervisor. I see you've been trying to reach me. Yes, I've been seeing things on the cameras. Things that shouldn't be there. People or not people. And the feeds cut out, and there were old recordings and... I know, Edward said, cutting me off. His voice was gentle but firm. I've been reviewing the logged footage from your end. You did well, Nathan. You followed protocol. You stayed in the monitoring room. You documented everything. That's exactly what you were supposed to do. What the hell is this place? I asked, my voice cracking. What am I really monitoring? There was a long pause. Vanguard Data Solutions operates at the intersection of data storage and experimental research. Some of our contracts involve sensitive programs that generate anomalous side effects. The entities you observed are a result of those side effects. They're not dangerous as long as protocol is maintained, as long as someone is watching them. Why didn't you tell me this before? Would you have taken the job if we had? I didn't have an answer for that. Your shift ends in 54 minutes, Edward continued. Day shift will arrive at 7 a.m. You can leave then. If you choose to come back next Sunday, your pay rate will increase to $120 an hour. Hazard bonus. You've earned it. And if I don't come back? Then we'll find someone else. But Nathan, we've been through 17 security operators in the last 3 years. Most of them lasted one night. A few made it a week. Only one lasted more than a month, and that was Marcus, who's been with us for 2 years now. You stayed calm. You followed protocol. You didn't try to investigate or play hero. Those are rare qualities. We need people like you. The line went quiet for a moment, then Edward spoke again, softer this time. I'll be honest with you. It doesn't get better. Some nights are worse than others. You'll see things that will make tonight look tame. But if you follow the protocol, if you do exactly what you're told, you'll be safe. And you'll be paid very, very well. I looked at the monitors, all normal, all quiet. But I knew what was out there, moving through the blind spots, existing in the spaces between the camera feeds. I need to think about it, I said. Take the rest of the week. Let me know by Friday if you're coming back. He hung up. At 6:57 a.m., I heard voices in the corridor outside. The day shift arriving, normal people coming to work at what they probably thought was just a data storage facility. How many of them knew the truth? The door lock indicator turned green. The door opened, and a woman in a Vanguard uniform stepped in, carrying a coffee cup and looking tired but alert. Hey, she said, giving me a small smile. You must be the new night guy. I'm Sarah. How was your first shift? Quiet, I lied. She nodded, setting down her coffee and taking a seat at Station 2. Yeah, nights are usually dead here. Boring work. But the pay is good, right? Right. I gathered my things, logged out of the system, and headed for the door. As I stepped into the corridor, I glanced back at the monitoring room. Sarah was already settling in, pulling up the camera feeds, starting her day. Behind her, on one of the screens showing level 3, I saw a tall, dark figure standing in the corridor. It raised one long arm and waved. I left before she could notice. I did go back the following Sunday, and the Sunday after that, and every Sunday for the next 6 months. Edward was right. Some nights were worse than others. Sometimes the entities stayed in the shadows, just flickers at the edge of the feeds. Other nights they were bold, pressing their faces against cameras, standing outside my door for hours, filling the corridors with their impossible presence. I learned their patterns. The tall ones appeared mostly on level 2 between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. The suited figures preferred level 3 and rarely came higher unless something triggered them. There were others too, things I never got a clear look at, things that appeared only as distortions in the camera feeds or sounds that the audio pickups couldn't quite capture. The protocol kept me safe. I cycled through feeds every 17 minutes, never letting my attention linger too long on any one camera. I never went to level 3. I never tried to investigate the blind spots. I documented everything, logged every anomaly, and waited for sunrise. The pay was extraordinary. After 3 months, I was making $165 an hour. After 6 months, $200. I paid off my student loans. I bought a new car. I put a down payment on a small house in Cedar Falls. Marcus, the weekend guy, and I never met in person. But we left notes for each other, brief messages in the monitoring room's logbook. He'd been doing this for 2 years, he said. The entities mostly left him alone now. They recognized him, accepted his presence. Maybe they'd eventually accept mine too. I wanted to believe that, but I knew the truth. We weren't monitoring them. They were allowing us to watch them. For reasons I couldn't begin to understand, they wanted someone to bear witness to whatever they were doing in the dark corners of Facility 7D. Sometimes I wonder what happens on Friday and Saturday nights when neither Marcus nor I are there. Who watches the watchers then? Or maybe that's when they do whatever it is they're really there to do, hidden from human eyes, working toward purposes I can't comprehend. I made it 6 months. That's longer than most. But last Thursday, something changed. I was cycling through the feeds at 3:42 a.m. when I came to camera 9, the one outside the monitoring room. The corridor was empty as usual, but as I watched, I saw movement at the far end. Something was coming down the hall toward my position. It was me. I mean, it looked like me. Same height, same build, same clothes, but the movements were wrong, jerky and mechanical, like a badly animated video game character. It walked down the corridor with unnatural precision, each step exactly the same length, arms swinging in perfect rhythm. The protocol was clear. If I saw myself on any camera, power down the station immediately. Don't investigate, contact the supervisor. But I couldn't move. I just sat there, watching this thing that looked like me approach the door. It stopped directly in front of the camera, facing it, facing me, and smiled. Not my smile, not any human smile. Too wide, too many teeth. Then it reached into its pocket and pulled out a badge. My badge. The one I was wearing around my neck at that very moment. I looked down. My badge was still there, hanging from the lanyard, my name and photo clearly visible. When I looked back at the screen, the thing was gone. But the door lock indicator had turned red. I powered down the station, called Edward. He didn't answer. I sent an email. No response. The monitoring room was completely silent. I waited, watching the dark screens, listening for any sound from the corridor outside. At 4:15 a.m., I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from the hallway. They stopped outside my door. I held my breath. A knock. 3 slow, heavy knocks that echoed in the small room. I didn't answer. After a moment, the footsteps resumed, moving past my door, fading down the corridor. The lock indicator stayed red for another hour before finally switching back to green. I lasted until sunrise. When the day shift arrived, I told Sarah I wasn't feeling well and left early. I didn't come back this Sunday. I won't be coming back next Sunday either. Marcus can have it. Hell, maybe he'll last another 2 years. Maybe he'll last forever, becoming as much a part of that place as the entities themselves. But I'm done. Some things shouldn't be watched. Some darkness should remain unobserved. Because I learned something important during those 6 months. The protocol isn't designed to protect us from them. It's designed to prevent us from understanding what they really are, from seeing the full picture. And that thing that looked like me? I think it's still there. Walking the corridors, doing my job. Maybe sitting in the monitoring room right now, watching the feeds, cycling through the cameras every 17 minutes. Maybe that's what happens when you work there long enough. Maybe that's what happened to all those operators who came before me. They didn't quit. They didn't get fired. They got replaced. I drive past Facility 7D sometimes on my way to my new job in town. I work at a coffee shop now. The pay is garbage compared to what I was making, but at least I can sleep at night. At least when I look in the mirror, I still recognize the face looking back. Last week, I saw someone who looked like Marcus walking into the grocery store. But something about the way he moved was off. Too precise, too mechanical. He turned and looked at me, and for just a second, his smile was too wide. I didn't say hello. Whatever's in Facility 7D, it's not staying there anymore. It's spreading, replacing, taking over one person at a time, one face at a time. And somewhere in that concrete bunker in the woods, something is watching the monitors, cycling through the feeds every 17 minutes, documenting everything it sees, following the protocol, waiting. The first week after I quit, I barely left my apartment. I'd wake up at odd hours, my internal clock still programmed for the night shift schedule, and lie in bed staring at the ceiling. Sometimes I'd hear sounds, footsteps in the hallway outside, knocking that seemed to come from inside the walls. I told myself it was just the old building settling, pipes expanding and contracting, normal apartment noise. But I knew better. I started having dreams about Facility 7D. In them, I was back in the monitoring room, watching the feeds. But in the dreams, the cameras showed impossible things. Server rooms that extended forever into darkness. Corridors that twisted back on themselves. Stairwells that led both up and down simultaneously, defying physics and geometry. And in every dream, eventually, I'd see myself on the monitors. My doppelganger, walking through the facility, touching things, examining equipment. Sometimes it would stop and stare directly at a camera, as if it knew I was watching, as if it wanted me to see. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, reaching for the badge that I'd turned in my last day. But phantom weight of it would linger, pressing against my chest even though nothing was there. Sarah from the day shift called me once, about 2 weeks after I quit. Her voice sounded strange on the phone, distant, like she was speaking from very far away, even though my caller ID showed a local number. "Hey Nathan," she said, "I heard you left. That's too bad. Some of the night shift reports you filed were really detailed, really thorough." Edward was impressed. "Thanks," I managed to say. "I just needed a change." "I understand. It's not for everyone." "Hey, do you remember what you saw that last night? The thing in the corridor?" Marcus wanted to know. He said it's important for the records. I hadn't told anyone except Edward what I'd seen that last night. I certainly hadn't put it in any report. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. "Who is this really?" I asked. "It's Sarah, from Facility 7D. You remember me, right? We worked together. Well, not together exactly. Different shifts, but you know what I mean." She laughed, but it sounded wrong. Like a recording of laughter played at slightly the wrong speed. I hung up. She called back 3 times. I didn't answer. After that, my phone started getting strange calls at odd hours. 3:14 a.m., 4:36 a.m., 5:59 a.m. All times that corresponded to incidents I'd logged during my shifts. When I answered, there was never anyone there. Just silence. Or sometimes that low vibration sound, the one I'd heard coming from beneath Facility 7D. I changed my number. The dreams got worse, more vivid, more real. In them, I wasn't just watching the monitors anymore. I was walking through the facility, experiencing what my doppelganger experienced. I felt the cold concrete under my feet, smelled the ozone scent of running servers, heard the whisper of ventilation systems, and underneath it all, that terrible vibration that seemed to come from the earth itself. And I saw them. Really saw them, not filtered through grainy black and white cameras. The tall figures weren't made of shadow like I'd thought. They were made of something else. Something that absorbed light, that bent space around itself. When they moved, reality seemed to ripple, like heat waves off summer pavement. The suited figures were worse. In the dreams, I could see through their hoods. There were faces underneath, but they weren't human faces. They were layered, multiple faces occupying the same space, flickering between different expressions, different features, like a television rapidly changing channels. Sometimes I recognized faces. People I'd known, people from my training, people I'd seen in the old footage on the monitors. Were those previous operators? Had they all been collected somehow? Incorporated into whatever intelligence controlled those things? I started researching Vanguard Data Solutions online. Their official website was professional and bland, talking about cloud storage, data security, and government contracts. Nothing unusual. But when I dug deeper into archived news sites and obscure forums, I found hints of something else. A tech blogger had written about strange construction permits for a facility outside Duluth, permits for experimental shielding, unusual power draws that suggested particle acceleration or other high-energy physics research. The post was 3 years old and had been deleted, but I found it cached on an archival site. A local UFO enthusiast had posted photos of unusual lights near Cedar Falls, claiming they came from some kind of secret government installation. The photos showed nothing conclusive, but the coordinates matched the location of Facility 7D. Most unsettling was a missing persons report I found in the Cedar Falls Community Newsletter archives. 19 months ago, a man named Hoekik Patterson had disappeared. Last known occupation, security officer for Vanguard Data Solutions. Last seen leaving his apartment for his Sunday night shift. His car was found in the Facility 7D parking lot 3 days later, but Derek was never found. I looked him up in the employee database I still had cached on my laptop. Derek Patterson had been a Level 3 security surveillance operator. He'd worked the Sunday through Thursday night shift. My shift. Had he seen something on those cameras that finally drove him to investigate? Had he broken protocol and gone to Level 3? Or had he simply been replaced, his doppelganger returning to work while the real Derek vanished into whatever existed in those blind spots where no cameras watched? I couldn't sleep anymore. Not really. I'd doze for an hour or two, then jerk awake, heart pounding, certain I'd heard something. Certain there was someone standing in the corner of my bedroom, watching me. When I turned on the lights, the room was always empty. But the feeling never went away. One night, about 6 weeks after I'd quit, I was working the late shift at the coffee shop. It was a quiet evening, just me and one other employee, cleaning up and getting ready to close. Through the front window, I saw someone walk past, a tall figure in dark clothes, walking with that same gliding motion I'd seen on the monitors. It stopped, turned, looked directly at me through the window. I couldn't see its face clearly, but I didn't need to. I knew what it was. It stood there for a long moment, motionless. Then it raised one long arm and pressed its hand against the glass. The window didn't fog from breath or body heat. The glass actually seemed to darken where it touched, spreading out from the point of contact like ink in water. My coworker, Amanda, walked out from the back room. "Hey, Nathan, I think we're all—" She stopped, following my gaze to the window. "What are you looking at?" I blinked. The figure was gone. The window was clear. "Nothing," I said. "Just thought I saw someone I knew." But when we locked up 20 minutes later and I walked to my car, I found a small, wet handprint on the driver's side window. Not a normal handprint. Too many fingers. Too long. I started carrying a small camera with me everywhere, one of those cheap action cameras that records everything. I told myself I needed evidence. If these things were following me, I needed proof. But really, I think I just needed to feel like I was watching instead of being watched. The camera never caught anything unusual. Just normal street scenes, normal buildings, normal people. But sometimes when I reviewed the footage, there would be brief moments of distortion. A single frame where the image went dark or pixelated. Always at 3:14 a.m. or 4:36 a.m. or 5:59 a.m. Always at times that corresponded to my old monitoring shifts. I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid, that the stress of those 6 months had done something to my perception, made me see patterns that weren't there. But then things started appearing in my apartment. Small things at first. My Vanguard ID badge, which I'd turned in, sitting on my kitchen counter one morning. When I picked it up, it was warm, like it had just been in someone's pocket. A printed page from the protocol document, specifically the page about never seeing yourself on camera. I found it tucked into my jacket pocket, even though I'd left the original document at the facility when I quit. A photograph, black and white, poor quality, clearly taken from a security camera. It showed me sleeping in my bed, taken from an overhead angle. There was no camera in my bedroom. I'd checked 100 times. I thought about calling Edward, demanding answers, threatening to go public or contact the authorities. But what would I even say? What would I report? Strange security camera experiences? Things that looked like people but moved wrong? They'd think I was crazy. Or worse, they'd investigate Vanguard. And something tells me anyone who investigates that facility too closely ends up like Derek Patterson, missing or replaced. I decided to leave town. Just pack up and go. Start over somewhere far away, somewhere these things couldn't find me. I gave notice at the coffee shop, told my landlord I was leaving, started packing my apartment. That's when Marcus called. I didn't recognize the number and almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Some instinct. "Nathan?" The voice was rough, tired, with an edge of desperation. "Nathan Reeves? This is Marcus Vale. We need to talk." "How did you get my number?" "I still have access to the employee database. Look, I know you quit. I know why. You saw your double, didn't you? On the cameras?" My blood went cold. "How do you know that?" "Because it happened to me too, 14 months ago. I saw myself on camera 9, same as you. Followed protocol, powered down, called Edward. He gave me the same speech he probably gave you. Said it was just an anomaly. Said the facility generates weird echoes sometimes because of the research equipment. Said to just keep following protocol and it wouldn't happen again." "And did it happen again?" Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Every damn night, Nathan. Every single night for 14 months, I see that thing that looks like me. Walking the corridors, monitoring the cameras. Sometimes it's there for hours, sometimes just a few minutes. But it's always there now. Then why do you keep going back?" "Because I can't leave," Marcus said, and his voice cracked. "Don't you understand? I tried to quit 3 times, but every time I do, something happens. My bank account empties. My landlord evicts me. My car breaks down in ways that should be impossible. Everything in my life starts falling apart until I come back. They own me, Nathan. Vanguard owns me." "That's insane. They can't force you to work there." "Can't they?" "Tell me something. Since you quit, have things been going well for you? No problems? No strange occurrences? I thought about the calls at odd hours, the handprint on my car window, the items appearing in my apartment. The dreams. I'm leaving town, I said. Getting away from all this? They won't let you. You've seen too much. You know too much. They need operators who understand what they're really monitoring. People who've been exposed to the anomalies. Normal people can't see them properly. The entities don't register on ordinary human perception the same way. But once you've worked there, once you've watched them through those feeds for long enough, you become attuned. You can see them anywhere now, can't you? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. That's why there are only 2 night shift operators, Marcus continued. Sunday through Thursday and Friday through Saturday. They rotate through people trying to find ones who can handle the exposure without breaking. Most can't. But the ones who can, the ones like us, we're valuable. We're assets. They don't let their assets just walk away. So what am I supposed to do? Just accept that I'm trapped? No, Marcus said, and his voice dropped to almost a whisper. There's a way out. I found it. I've been researching this facility for 2 years, digging through old records, talking to former contractors, piecing together what's really going on there. And what is going on there? Not over the phone. I need to show you. Can you meet me? Tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. at the Timber Creek Diner on Route 12? It's public, lots of people around, safe. I hesitated. This could be a trap. Marcus could be one of them now, replaced like I feared had happened to Sarah and the others. How do I know you're really Marcus? I asked. You don't. But ask yourself this, if I was one of them, would I need to trick you into meeting? They know where you live, Nathan. They know everywhere you go. If they wanted you, they could take you any time, but they don't want to take you. They want you to come back on your own. Because people who choose to return, people who accept their role, they last longer. They stay functional. He was right. If this was a trap, I was already caught. The only question was whether to fight or accept. Timber Creek Diner, I said. 3 p.m. If you're not alone, I'm leaving immediately. I'll be alone, I promise. And Nathan, don't trust anyone from Vanguard. Not Edward, not Sarah, not anyone. They're all part of it now. Some of them might not even be entirely human anymore. He hung up. I barely slept that night. I kept my lights on, my camera running, my car keys in my pocket ready to run, but nothing happened. No calls, no visitors, no strange noises or shadow figures. The quiet was somehow worse than the disturbances, like the calm before a storm. The next day I drove to the Timber Creek Diner 40 minutes early. I wanted to scope out the location, make sure it was safe. The diner was a classic roadside establishment, red vinyl booths and chrome fixtures, probably unchanged since the 1970s. A few truckers sat at the counter. A family with young kids occupied one booth. Normal, safe. I ordered coffee and waited. Marcus arrived exactly at 3 p.m. I recognized him from his employee photo, though he looked worse in person. Dark circles under his eyes, hollow cheeks, haunted expression. He looked like he hadn't slept properly in months. He slid into the booth across from me, didn't order anything, just pulled out a worn manila folder and set it on the table between us. Everything I've learned is in here, he said, speaking quietly. Documentation going back 27 years. Vanguard Data Solutions isn't just a data storage company. They were a front for something else, something called Project Watchtower. What's Project Watchtower? Observation of non-terrestrial intelligence, Marcus said. Except it's not aliens from space. It's something that exists, adjacent to our reality, parallel to it. Facility 7D was built on a thin spot, a place where the membrane between our world and theirs is weak. The entities you saw on the monitors, they're not in our facility. We're observing them in their space. The cameras somehow penetrate the dimensional barrier. That's impossible. You've seen them. You know they're not human. The protocol, the strict rotation schedule, the blind spots, all of it is designed to maintain observational distance, to watch without fully interacting. Because if we interact too much, if we cross certain thresholds, the barrier breaks down, and they can come through. I thought about the tall figure pressing its hand against the coffee shop window, the handprint on my car, the photograph of me sleeping. They're already coming through, I said. Marcus nodded grimly. Started about 3 years ago. Small manifestations at first. Just shadows and sounds. But it's getting worse. More frequent. More physical. That's why they need operators. People watching the cameras, maintaining the observation protocols. It somehow stabilizes the barrier. Our attention, our focused observation acts like weights holding down a tarp. Without observers, the entities can move more freely between dimensions. So, we're not monitoring the facility. We're monitoring them, keeping them contained by watching them. Exactly. But here's the thing, Nathan. They know we're watching. They've always known, and they're learning, adapting. That's what the doubles are. They're trying to create duplicates, copies that can exist in our world permanently. Once they perfect the process, they won't need the barrier at all. They'll be able to replace us entirely, one person at a time. I felt sick. How do we stop it? We can't. But we can get free. There's a protocol buried deep in the original facility documentation, a way to sever the connection between an operator and the observation system. It's dangerous. It requires going back into the facility, into level 3, into the blind spot. The protocol says never to go to level 3 alone. The protocol is designed to keep us compliant, Marcus said, to keep us scared and obedient. But I've been mapping the facility during my shifts. There are maintenance tunnels that connect all 3 levels, routes that bypass the normal corridors and cameras. If we go together, if we can reach the level 3 research chamber and destroy the primary observation nexus, it should break our connection, free us. Or it could kill us. Maybe. But Nathan, look at me. Really, look. I'm dying anyway, slowly, being consumed by this connection. In another 6 months, I'll be completely gone, replaced, either by my doppelganger or by whatever consciousness is organizing the entities. At least this way, I have a chance to die as myself. I studied his face. He was serious, completely serious, and terrified. When? I asked. Tonight. My regular shift starts at 11 p.m. You were Sunday through Thursday, I'm Friday through Saturday. If we do it during my shift, the day operators won't be there. No one will stop us. No one will even know until it's over. They'll kill us. Edward, or whoever's really in charge, they won't just let us destroy their equipment. They can try, but I don't think they can actually stop us. The entities need willing observers. If we refuse to cooperate, if we actively work against the system, their control breaks down. I've tested it. Small ways. Sometimes I deliberately break protocol during my shifts, stop cycling cameras, leave certain feeds on for too long. And you know what happens? Nothing. The entities appear more frequently, but they don't hurt me. They can't. Because I'm still the observer. I'm still necessary. It sounded insane, suicidal. Every rational part of my brain screamed to walk away, to get in my car and drive as far from Minnesota as possible. But I knew Marcus was right. I could feel it. The connection he described. A thin thread linking me to Facility 7D, to the cameras, to the things that move through the darkness. Every time I checked the time on my phone and saw 3:14 a.m. or 4:36 a.m., I felt a pull, a compulsion to be watching, to be observing, to be fulfilling my role. If I didn't break that connection, I'd end up back in that monitoring room eventually, one way or another, by choice or by replacement. "What do we need?" I asked. Marcus smiled. It was a broken, desperate smile, but it was real. Just courage, and maybe a little bit of madness. We met in the Facility 7D parking lot at 10:45 p.m. The building looked exactly as I remembered it. Gray concrete, no windows, just that oppressive sense of weight, like the structure was pressing down on reality itself. Marcus had a key card that still worked. We entered through the main security door, and I felt it immediately. The air inside was different, heavier, charged with something I couldn't name. "We have 15 minutes before the monitoring system fully activates," Marcus said, leading me past the ground floor security station toward the stairwell. "Once I log in upstairs, the cameras will come online. That's when they'll know we're here." We descended to level 2. The corridors were lit but empty, fluorescent lights humming their eternal song. Everything looked normal, sterile, corporate. Nothing like the nightmare I had experienced on the monitors, but I could feel them watching. Even without cameras active, I knew the entities were aware of our presence. The air itself seemed to vibrate with attention. "The maintenance tunnel entrance is in the northwest corner of server room C," Marcus said. "Once we're in the tunnel system, we're blind. No cameras can see us, but neither can the observation system protect us." "You mean we'll be vulnerable?" "Yes, but also free. They can't control what they can't observe." We reached server room C. The door was locked, but Marcus had override codes. Inside, the servers hummed and blinked, processing data for clients who had no idea what their storage facility really housed. In the far corner, behind a rack of equipment, Marcus revealed a maintenance hatch. It opened onto a narrow tunnel, barely wide enough for a person to move through, descending into darkness. "Once we're in, there's no turning back," Marcus said. "The hatch locks from the inside. Emergency protocol to prevent contamination spread if something breaches from level 3. I looked back at the server room one last time. Normal. Safe. I could walk away right now, return to my apartment, pack my things, leave town. Maybe the entities would let me go. Maybe I could outrun them. But I knew that was a lie. "Let's do it," I said. We descended into the tunnel. Marcus led the way with a flashlight, the beam cutting through absolute darkness. The tunnel walls were raw concrete, streaked with moisture. The air smelled of earth and ozone and something else, something organic that shouldn't be there. We descended for what felt like an hour, but was probably only 15 minutes. The tunnel branched several times, but Marcus seemed confident in the route. Finally, we emerged into a larger space, level 3. The chamber was massive, at least 100 feet across, carved directly from bedrock. In the center stood a structure that defied easy description. It looked like a fusion of technology and something biological. Towers of equipment sprouting cable-like tendrils, screens displaying impossible geometries, and at the center of it all, a sphere of darkness so complete it seemed to devour light itself. "The observation nexus," Marcus whispered. "This is what generates the dimensional penetration, what allows the cameras to see through the barrier." Around the nexus, figures moved, the suited ones. There were at least a dozen of them, working at consoles, adjusting equipment, performing tasks I couldn't begin to understand. They moved with purpose, but without urgency, like workers on a factory floor. None of them looked at us. "They know we're here," I said. "Yes, but they can't stop us, not while we're unobserved. We're in the blind spot now." Marcus pulled a small device from his backpack. It looked like a combination of a timer and explosive charge. "I built this from maintenance supplies. It should destabilize the power coupling. The feedback will destroy the nexus, might destroy this whole level actually. We need to be back in the tunnel before it goes off." "How long?" 5 minutes. Enough time to get clear if we run." He moved toward the nexus. The suited figures parted for him, creating a path, but never looking directly at us. Up close, I could see that the suits weren't really suits at all. They were more like skin. And the faces behind the hoods. I tried not to look too closely. Marcus placed the device at the base of the nexus and activated it. A small red LED began flashing. 5 minutes. We turned to run back to the tunnel. That's when I saw it. My double, standing between us and the exit. It looked exactly like me. Exactly. Same clothes, same posture, same expression. But the eyes were wrong, too focused, too aware. Like something ancient and vast was looking out through a human mask. "Nathan," it said, and it even sounded like me. "Don't do this. You're necessary. The system needs you. We need you." "We're leaving," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Where will you go? We're part of you now, in your dreams, in your thoughts, in every reflection you see. Destroying the nexus won't free you. It will only make you invisible to us. And that's worse. Because without observation, without purpose, you'll realize how empty you are. How meaningless your existence is without us watching." Marcus grabbed my arm. "It's not real. It's just using your fear. Come on." We ran. The double didn't chase us. It just stood there, watching with my face as we sprinted back to the maintenance tunnel. Behind us, I heard a sound. Not an alarm. Something organic. A collective exhalation, like 100 voices sighing at once. We were in the tunnel when the device detonated. The explosion was muffled by distance and concrete, but the shockwaves still reached us, knocking us off our feet. The tunnel filled with dust and the smell of burning electronics. For a moment, I thought it might collapse, burying us alive. But the walls held. We climbed in darkness, Marcus's flashlight having been lost in the fall. We felt our way upward, following the tunnel by touch, moving as fast as we dared. Behind us, I heard sounds, movement, things pursuing through the darkness. We emerged in server room C. The lights were flickering, and all the servers had gone dark. Emergency power only. Through the walls, I heard alarms beginning to blare. We ran through level 2, up the stairs, across the ground floor, and out into the parking lot. Behind us, Facility 7D looked unchanged from the outside. No smoke, no fire, no obvious damage. But I could feel it. An absence, like a connection that had been severed. The constant background pull, the sense of being watched, the weight of observation. It was gone. Marcus and I stood there, breathing hard, staring at the facility. "Did it work?" I asked. "I don't know. I can't feel them anymore. Can you?" I closed my eyes, searching for that familiar presence. The entities, the watchers, the observation that had defined my existence for 6 months. Nothing. Just silence. Ordinary human silence. "It worked," I whispered. "We're free." Marcus started laughing. Not hysterical laughter, but genuine relief. Joy. He sank to his knees in the parking lot, tears streaming down his face. I wanted to feel the same, but something was wrong. The double's words echoed in my mind. Without observation, without purpose, you'll realize how empty you are. I looked at my hands, at the parking lot, at the world around me. Everything seemed less real somehow. Flatter, like a photograph instead of a lived experience. Was this freedom? Or was it something worse? Before I could process the thought, headlights appeared on the access road. A black SUV, moving fast. It pulled into the parking lot, and 3 people got out. Edward Chen, Sarah from the day shift, and someone I didn't recognize. They walked toward us with purpose, but not aggression. "Nathan, Marcus," Edward said calmly. "What have you done?" "We destroyed it," Marcus said, still on his knees. "We're free of you, free of all of it." Edward nodded slowly. I see. And how does that feel? Like I can finally breathe again? For now, perhaps. But, Marcus, you've been connected to the observation system for 2 years. The entities weren't just monitoring you, they were sustaining you, giving your perception structure, meaning. Without that, well, you'll see. Or rather, you won't. Human consciousness wasn't designed to exist without observation, without being seen. You're lying, I said. This is just another manipulation. Is it? Then why does the world feel less real already? Why does your own existence feel uncertain? He was right. God help me, he was right. I could feel it happening. My sense of self, of presence in the world, beginning to attenuate, like I was fading. There's a reason we employ observers, Edward continued. A reason we maintain the protocols. The entities on level 3, they're not invaders. They're not threats. They're stabilizers. Their observation of our reality and our observation of theirs creates a feedback loop, a mutual existence. Without it, both realities begin to collapse. So, we're trapped, Marcus said quietly. We have to be watched to exist. Not trapped, necessary. You're the interface, Marcus. You and Nathan and all the others. The point where two forms of consciousness meet and recognize each other. Without you, reality itself becomes uncertain. Sarah stepped forward. We can repair the nexus, rebuild what you destroyed, but you'll need to come back, both of you. Resume your shifts, resume observation. Otherwise, she didn't finish. She didn't need to. I looked at Marcus. He looked back at me. In his eyes, I saw the same terrible understanding, the same realization. We had never been prisoners of the observation system. We were its foundation. That was 3 weeks ago. I'm back at Facility 7D now, Sunday through Thursday, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Marcus is back too, Friday and Saturday. The nexus was repaired. The entities returned. Everything is as it was, except now I understand what I'm really doing here. I'm not monitoring them. We're monitoring each other, human and non-human, observer and observed, locked in an eternal cycle of mutual existence. The protocol keeps me safe. The rotation maintains the connection. The blind spots preserve the mystery. And I've stopped trying to escape. Because I finally understand the truth. If they're not watching me, I don't exist. If I'm not watching them, they don't exist. We're bound together. Forever. The only real question is, who is the prisoner and who is the guard? I don't know the answer. But I keep watching. I keep cycling through the feeds. I keep following the protocol. Because the alternative is worse than any horror they could show me on those monitors. The alternative is nothing at all.